Today I want to talk about markers and how you can use them effectively in your own dog training. A marker is an audible, visual, or tactile cue that tells the dog reinforcement is coming. In dog training, we use this to pinpoint precise behaviors and communicate to the dog exactly what we want to see more of. This creates clear communication in our training and speeds up the training process as well. A marker doesn't tell the dog if they're right or wrong. A dog doesn't understand right or wrong. Instead, what a marker does is communicate to the dog clearly when reinforcement is or isn't available. Mechanics play a really big role in strengthening the association to our marker. Whether I'm using a click or a word, I want the dog to understand when they hear that, that's what's predicted the reinforcement. If I have poor mechanics and I reach for my food first and then mark, the reaching for the food can predict the reward rather than my own marker. That muddies the understanding of what is marking the dog. So if I want my dog to sit and I want to mark correctly, Bayo, sit. Yes. Once I've said yes, then I can go and get a piece of food for him. Now some people like to change up the markers that they're using for a given behavior. So if I ask my dog to down, and he downs, a lot of people might say, good down. Unfortunately, dogs don't understand parts of speech. Good can absolutely be a reward marker. I can say good, and he understands that means I'm going to bring food to him and not to break the behavior he's in. He understands what good means. So when he hears that, he knows food's coming. But if I were to say, Bayo, sit, good sit, what's actually going on is that good might be marking the behavior, but then I'm also repeating the cue. So then that becomes learned irrelevance to the dog. When they hear the cue over and over and over and it means nothing, then it's going to mean nothing. Another way to weaken a marker word is to not have reinforcement behind it. So if I ask my dog, can you sit? Yes. And then I do nothing. And then I ask him to down. Yes. And then I do nothing. And then I ask him, can you heel? Yes. Still nothing. Down. Yes. Now, I've said it maybe 4 or 5 times at this point. That alone is not going to weaken my dog's association. If I move forward and I reward him after this, I probably haven't made any damage there. But if I'm consistently, every single session, rewarding or marking multiple times without rewarding, the dog starts to realize that that marker word is inconsistent. It's not reliable. And the association that you've built up for that marker word weakens. Again, the dog does not hear yes and hear, oh, I've done the right thing. The marker tells him that he has gotten access to that reinforcement. And so if I say yes, I'm effectively saying, you're getting a treat for that, or you're getting a toy for that, whatever your marker may mean. But when I say that, hey, you did a great job, you're getting a toy for that, and then I move on and I don't do anything for that, the dog has had a little bit of a letdown there. He's gone, wait, that marker doesn't mean what I think it means. Again, not detrimental if it happens every once in a while. Mistakes happen. You might say yes when you didn't mean to, move on, not a big deal. But if you're doing that every session and your goal is to start saying the marker word to reward the dog without actually giving a reward, all you're doing is weakening that marker word. So I've said how consistency can help strengthen a marker word. Saying it consistently, making sure your timing is good, making sure your mechanics are good, and being consistent with all of that. You also want to be consistent with what your criteria is. If I have a marker that means stay put, I'm bringing food to you, and I say, good, and I go to give him his food and he gets up, I need to be consistent and remind him that the criteria here is for him to stay put. So I'm going to ask him to down. Good. And as long as he can hold the down until he gets the food and maintain a down afterwards, he's going to get that reward. So my criteria has to stay consistent for that marker word. For yes, the option is that he can get up. It's a terminal marker word. So if I say yes, and I go to get the food, he's allowed to get up and get it. There's lower criteria for that one. So you want to maintain the criteria that you set for your dog and what the expectations are for a particular marker word. You also want to make sure that you're consistently rewarding the dog with what you have associated that marker with. So if you've associated the marker with food, you need to make sure that that marker stays paired with food. If you've associated a marker with toys, you need to make sure that marker stays associated with toys. You also need to make sure that once you've marked a behavior that is associated with a given reward, that you reward the dog after you've marked. I see a lot of people do multiple behaviors and mark one by one as the dog's doing behaviors he likes, and no reward is given until maybe the end. Now, I'm a big fan of delayed reinforcement. I want my dogs to be able to do multiple behaviors before getting a reward. Both of my dogs do obedience competitively. They can't get a reward in the ring when they're competing. So I want them to understand the concept of doing multiple behaviors before getting that reward, but I don't want to use a marker word incorrectly. So you might want to think about either using praise or a given word that means specifically keep going. You might get reinforcement later. So for me, I say nice, or I'll say what a good job, that's awesome. I'll say words that are kind of throwaway words that aren't training buzzwords. So when I say yes, I want my dog to understand he is getting a reward of some kind. So if I'm doing a healing pattern, I might tell my dog, good job, keep it up, that is awesome, loved it. But if my marker is yes, I'm not going to say yes until my dog can actually get that reinforcement. Some people call this intermittent rewarding. So intermittent rewarding, I think, is a great idea. Putting your dog on a schedule where they don't know when they're going to get reinforced. It might be after one behavior, it might be after 3. That's really great, especially once your dog has a behavior solid. You don't want them to necessarily get paid 100% after every single behavior they do. But I also don't want to weaken my cue in the process. So again, don't say a cue, a marker word, if you're not going to pay your dog afterwards. Think about this inversely. If you are a person who uses a non-reward marker, a non-reward marker can mean one of 2 things. 1, sorry you're not getting anything for that. 2, sorry you're not getting anything for that and I'm correcting you. Now I personally don't use physical corrections in my training, but if you are a person who uses non-reward markers, you have to think about it like this. I'm never going to say a non-reward marker and give my dog a reward. That just doesn't make sense. I want to make sure he understands when I say no, that means nothing's happening. It really doesn't make sense for me to say, hey, Bayo, can you heel? Whoops, you're crooked. No, here's your treat. People see that and go, wow, that makes sense, but they also don't understand the same is true for saying yes and not rewarding your dog. Down. It's the same thing. We want to make sure there's a clear expectation when I say those marker words, what the dog is to expect afterwards. So I've talked about how you can associate a marker word with a given reinforcement, but you can also condition a marker word with a delivery of a reinforcement as well. So not just this word means food, but this word means chase the food. This word means eat the food from my hand or eat the food from the ground. So you can have multiple reward markers that mean slightly different things for a similar reward. This creates different motivations. If I'm working on a down, I want a calm behavior. I don't want a marker word that might spark excitement from him. So if he's in a nice calm down and I want to reward that, I can use a reward marker that means specifically stay where you are and maybe even eat food off the ground. Ground. A nice calm reinforcement there. If I want him to get released or have an exciting association to a word. I can have something that means specifically go chase the food. Get it? Good job. Good. Yes. Good. Get it? So I can make my reward markers mean different things to my dog. Not only can I teach him that the food's going to happen in a different way, but I can also teach him that some reward markers mean specifically toys are happening, and some reward markers mean specifically food is happening. So I have a toy out, but I don't necessarily want him to just snatch it. So I want to say a reward marker that doesn't mean grab the toy. Good. Yes. Good. He's very interested in the toy. I want him to understand he can get it once it's once it's cued. Yes. Get it. Sit. Good. Get it. Yes. Strike. Strike. Yeah, good boy. Careful. Out. Sit. Yes. Good. Get it. Yes. Good. Strike. Nice. So I have a specific reward marker that means toy. And so that if I want to work on distractions around toys, he doesn't necessarily think just because I've marked him, that means he can get the toy. Okay, out, sit. Now the toy is on the ground. I want to make sure I can reward him without him being released to that toy. Yes. Sit. Good. Down. Whoops. Down. Sit. Good. Down. Good. Get it. Sit. Get it. Sit. Good. Toy specific. Break. Nice job. Good boy. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I love using different marker words in my own training to make sure that I'm clearly communicating to my dog and that we have frustration as low as possible. If you incorporate markers in your own training, or if you use them after you've seen this, let me know how it goes. If you found that markers have really improved your communication with your dog, I'd love to hear about that as well. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can message me on Instagram at PaxtonBayo or at Sit and Stay Training. You can also leave a comment below, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Break. Good boy.